Can we have our seats, please? Please take your seats. Can I ask delegations to please take their seats? We're starting the second meeting of the plenary. Please, reference to the order of business for the second meeting of the Assembly. Agenda item 3, establishment of committees and commissions. I wish to invite the chairperson of the Credentials Committee, Mr. Farhad Pavaresh of Iran, to present the interim report of the Credentials Committee. Please give the floor to Iran, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the interim report of the chairman of the Credential Committee of 40th session of the ICAO Assembly, which I am reading to you. In accordance with Rule 6b of the Standing Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, the Credential Committees, as established is composed of 5 members representing the following 5 member states nominated today by the President of the Assembly: Chile, Fiji, Islamic Republic of Iran, Nigeria, and Russian Federation. The committee met after the first plenary meeting, and I am grateful that under the nomination made by the distinguished member from the Russian Federation, the committee elected me as a chairman. With the support of the Secretariat, the committee examined the credentials so far received for member of delegations as follows. So for member states, at the time of the first meeting of the Credentials Committee, original credentials in the proper form were received from 164 member states, while 173 states had delegates registered. Accordingly, with reference to Article 28 of the rules, there is a majority of member states constituting a quorum. For the observers, furthermore, original credentials in the proper form were received from 43 observer delegations, while 46 had registered. The committee urges all states and organizations that have not yet presented proper credentials to do it as soon as possible. For the time being, in view of Rule 7 of the Standing Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, the committee recommends that the Assembly permit them to participate in the deliberation. Last but not least, Mr. President, I also would like to convey my appreciation to the Legal Affairs and External Relations Bureau for its dedicated work on the review of the credentials, in particular Mr. Benoit Verhegen, Ms. Olga Bondareva, and Ms. Sylvie Bloor. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Iran. Thank you, Mr. Pavaresh, in your capacity as chairperson of the Credentials Committee. Thank you for the work you did over lunchtime. And I want to thank all the members of the Credentials Committee for the information provided. Colleagues, as you can hear, this assembly is breaking records on all fronts. We've received the original credentials in proper form from 164 member states. At this stage of the assembly, this is the highest in the history of the organization. I want to enjoin all of you to please perfect your letters of credentials in order that all states registered can participate effectively. In the meantime, in accordance with Rule 7 of the Standing Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, I ask that the plenary accept the recommendation of the committee that the Assembly permit all the delegations to participate in its deliberations while they update their credentials. Do I have your agreement to that? Thank you so much. Now we move to election of the President of the Assembly. The second item on the order of business this afternoon is the election of the President of the Assembly. I would like to invite delegations to present nominations. I have Sweden. Sweden, you have the floor, please.
Mr. President, Madam Secretary General, distinguished ministers and colleagues, it's my honor to nominate Mr. Nari William Singh as President of the Assembly. As Director General of the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority since 2014, Mr. William Singh has extensive experience of leadership and of ensuring a safe, secure, and sustainable development of civil aviation. In fact, he joined the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority 22 years ago in 1997. With a background in aircraft maintenance engineering, he also has technical and practical knowledge of the aviation industry. His technical background, in combination with his extensive leadership skills, makes him an excellent choice for the steering us through the Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sweden, for this nomination. Are there any other proposals or secondments of this nomination? India, please.
Mr. President of the ICAO Council, Madam Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure that I second the proposal of my friend from Sweden to nominate Mr. Nari William Singh, the Director General of Jamaica, as the President of this Assembly. With an illustrious career in civil aviation, which has spanned over 3 decades, as head of the Jamaican Civil Aviation Administration today, Mr. Nari William Singh has both the qualities of experience and maturity in abundant measure. He has performed his role of regulating the Jamaican aviation industry and ensuring that the public is provided with a safe, reliable, efficient, and user-friendly air transport system in an exemplary manner. Multilateralism and geographical representation go hand in hand. India takes great pride in seconding his candidature. He is therefore eminently suited to chair this assembly and take forward its deliberations during the next 10 days. I thank you, sir.
Thank you, India. Thank you, India, so much. Any other nominations or support for the nomination of Nari William Singh? Dominican Republic.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Dominican Republic has the honor to second the nomination of our good friend and colleague, Nari William Singh, to lead the work of the plenary of the 40th Assembly of ICAO. We are certain that his demonstrated leadership will lead us to a successful and historic outcome of the Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominican Republic. In the absence of any other nomination, following the nomination by Sweden as supported by India and Dominican Republic, I declare Mr. Nari William Singh elected as President of the 40th session of the Assembly of ICAO, and invite him to the podium to take his seat. Please join me in appreciation and in congratulating him. Ladies and gentlemen, I now turn over the floor to the President of the Assembly.
President of the ICAO Assembly, Dr. Bernard Aliou, ICAO Secretary General, Dr. Fang Liu, members of the ICAO Council, honorable ministers and heads of delegations, your excellencies, ambassadors and delegates to ICAO, heads of industry association and stakeholders, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I deem it a great honor and privilege to accept the confidence reposed in me to serve as president of this historic 40th session of the ICAO Assembly, an occasion that also celebrates the 75th anniversary of the signing of the Convention on International Civil Aviation. Jamaica previously presided over the 22nd Assembly in 1977 under Dr. Ken Rattray. This honor, which I accept on behalf of my country, Jamaica, and the other small island developing states, provides a fitting crescendo and symbolic continuation of ICAO's 5-year No Country Left Behind focus. Indeed, it reflects the continuing and genuinely inclusive stance through which ICAO has successfully embraced state equality and inclusion in principle and action. I thank Sweden for nominating me to serve as president, and the states of India and the Dominican Republic for their endorsement. Above all, I'm appreciative of the support received from my regional group, the Group of Latin American and Caribbean States, GRULAC, for Jamaica to serve as president at this auspicious assembly. Despite team dynamics related to member size, location, influence, or other factors, the mantra remains true that the strength of a team, that is, our global aviation community, is each individual member, and the strength of each member is the team. The corollary to this inclusiveness is the obligation by each state, irrespective of size and other factors, to maintain effective implementation of ICAO SARPs and developmental initiatives, which assure global air transport safety and an industry that operates at the highest standards of efficiency. These are imperatives as our chain of air transport operations in a common sky with common dependencies is truly only as strong as our weakest link. Indeed, Jamaica has taken its aviation obligations and responsibilities very seriously and continues to fulfill its obligation as an ICAO contracting state. Colleagues, as we congregate and collaborate today, representing our various governments, jurisdictions, and entities, it is clear that while ICAO is grounded in multinationalism, individual government support for air transport safety and efficiency is paramount as an enabling force. I pause at this moment to recognize the leadership, support, and foresight of the government of Jamaica, and particularly our Minister of Transport and Mining, the Honorable Robert Montague, who will join this assembly later in the week, for ensuring the steady realization of Jamaica's air transport vision. The development and common good of the peoples and nations served by the global aviation industry in each dispersed location will remain overarching objectives. It is true that we are differentiated by many factors. However, our unison of goals and objectives means we all have a vested interest in reaching consensus that further these objectives in the areas of safety, efficiency, growth, and sustainability for the industry and the populations that we serve. As we go through the many important agenda items, I undertake to preside over and guide the activities and deliberations of this meeting in an impartial, inclusive, and efficient manner. There will be challenges in reaching agreements based on our various circumstances. However, I am heartened to acknowledge the caliber of the various representatives and interests present, which augur well for outcomes that are uniformly progressive. Let us at this assembly redouble our efforts to help achieve ICAO's goals and objectives and its support for enduring global prosperity premised on peaceful coexistence, equitable participation, and meaningful collaboration. As we deliberate, let us remain conscious, long after these sessions are concluded, that while deliberation is the work of many men and women, action is the work of each alone. I graciously rely on your support and cooperation as I exercise my duties and responsibilities to ensure a successful assembly. I close with a line from the legendary Bob Marley, "One love." Thank you. Colleagues, we'll now proceed to item 3 on the order of business for this afternoon session. Agenda item 7, election of the 4 vice presidents of the Assembly and chairpersons of commissions. I now wish to invite nominations for the post of the 4 vice presidents. Are there any nominations? United States.
Well, thank you, Mr. President of the Assembly, and congratulations on this tremendous honor, and I think it's very well deserved. We've had a relationship in the past, and we want to continue that. But before I make these nominations, I would just like to take this very moment to thank President ILU for calling and allowing me to make these nominations. It's a great honor to do that. And also for the U.S. delegation to possibly be one of the first to wish the President Godspeed in all of his future endeavors. As most of you know, he'll be ending his tenure this fall, and we've had a great relationship, and I think his years here have been very productive. So I just want to wish you all the best, to you and Natalia, sir, on behalf of the U.S. delegation. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, as the United States representative on the Council of ICAO and as someone attending his first ICAO assembly, I'm especially pleased to be able to introduce the 4 distinguished nominees to serve as the 4 vice presidents of ICAO's 40th assembly. As I make these introductions, I would ask each of these nominees, if you're present, to please stand up so that everyone in the assembly can see them. So let me begin with the first vice president. The nominee for first vice president is His Excellency Salman Sabah Al-Salim Al-Hamoud Al-Sabah of the state of Kuwait. Since 2017, Mr. Al-Sabah has served as the President of Civil Aviation with ministerial rank of the state of Kuwait. Since 2018, he has also served as the chairman of the Arab Civil Aviation Organization, which is an important partner for ICAO. Prior to these, he held a series of positions of increasing responsibility in his country's government. Now let's go to the second vice president. The nominee for second vice president is Ms. Poppy Koza of the Republic of South Africa. Ms. Koza is currently serving her second term as the Director of Civil Aviation of the South African Civil Aviation Authority. In ICAO, Ms. Koza served for 2 years as the chairperson of the Aviation Security Panel, which we all know is a very important panel. Ms. Koza is the first woman to hold both of these positions, and under her leadership, women now occupy half of the executive positions in the South African Civil Aviation Authority, which is quite the notable achievement. Next up, round of applause. Next up is the third vice president, and the nominee for third vice president is Mr. Levon Karanadze of Georgia. Mr. Karanadze currently serves as the director of the Georgian Civil Aviation Agency, which he joined upon its establishment as an independent regulator in 2011. Previously, he headed the Air Navigation Services Division at the United Transport Administration of Georgia. Mr. Karanadze also worked as an en route air traffic controller for the Georgian Air Navigation Service provider. And last but not least, the fourth vice president. The nominee for fourth vice president is Ms. Crystal Soo-young Kim of the Republic of Korea. Ms. Kim currently serves as the Deputy Director of the International Air Transport Division in the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport of the Republic of Korea. In this position, Ms. Kim is responsible for ICAO affairs and air services negotiations with the Middle East and Africa. Ms. Kim is attending her third ICAO assembly as a member of the South Korean delegation. So, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, we have before us now for our consideration 4 excellent candidates to serve as the 4 vice presidents of ICAO's 40th Assembly. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce them to you all.
Thank you, United States. Do we have any statements in support of these nominations? Colombia.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First, I would like to congratulate you and to congratulate all of us on your election. Your success will be the success of the 40th Assembly, and you can count on all of the countries represented here for their support. Colombia would like to second the nomination of the distinguished delegate of the United States for the first vice president, His Excellency Mr. Salman Sabah Al Salem, Al Hamoud Al Sabah of Kuwait. For the second vice president, Ms. Poppy Koza, the Director General of Civil Aviation of the South African Civil Aviation Authority. For the third vice president, Mr. Levon Karanadze, Director of Civil Aviation of Georgia. And for the fourth vice president, our colleague, Ms. Soo-young Kim, the Deputy Director of International Affairs and Transport of the Republic of Korea. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend greetings to the President of the Council as well as to the Secretary General. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colombia. I see no more requests at this time, so I now declare the 4 nominations by the United States as the first, second, third, and fourth vice presidents of the Assembly. I now wish to invite nominations for the posts of the 4 chairpersons. Are there any nominations? Nigeria.
Thank you very much, President Nari, and congratulations for your election. Indulge me and permit me also on behalf of my delegation and to recognize also the tremendous amount of work done by the President of Council, President Bernard Aliyu, over the 2-term or 2 tenure that he had. Tremendous achievements, not only the No Country Left Behind initiative, the environmental issues and all of the general administration of this council had been tremendous. We recognize and celebrate him, and we thank him. However, permit me to nominate the chairperson of Technical Commission, and the nominee was born in 1959 and educated at Kwame Nkrumah University, Kumasi, and Henley Management College in the UK. He has over 35 years of experience in engineering systems design, installation and maintenance, as well as mining and crude oil refining industry. He has worked for ICAO as Air Navigation Commissioner for 4 years and Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. He is presently the Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. This gentleman is our own, Mr. Simon Christopher Aloti. Mr. President, permit me for the second nominee, the chairperson of the Economic Commission, and the nominee holds a bachelor's degree in economics and commerce from Royal Military College of Canada in 2010, and master's degree in applied economics from University of Victoria, and a PhD in international affairs from Graduate College of Public and International Affairs of the University of Pittsburgh. He has been with Transport Canada since 2005 and became the Executive Director, Air Policy International. He is responsible for all aspects of international air policy as well as Transport Canada's commitments related to air service under the Canadian tourism strategy. He is involved in the work of ICAO as a member and Vice Chairperson of the Air Transport Regulation Panel. He is very fluent in French, English, and Espanol. This nominee is our own Dr. Mark Rioux. The third nominee for the chairperson of the Legal Commission was born in Surabaya in 1966 and educated at law school in Airlagda, University Surabaya, and University of Indonesia, Jakarta. He has a solid background on the field of international law and treaties and rich experience in handling international treaties and multilateral negotiations on political security, economic, social, and cultural issues. He is a senior diplomat at the Republic of Indonesia who has been appointed as ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Canada, as well as a representative of Indonesia to the Council. This nominee is Mr. Abdul Qadir Jailani. Mr. President, permit me also to nominate the chairperson, Administrative Commission. This nominee was born 3 years after I was born, in 1967, and educated at Durham Johnston Comprehensive School and the University of Leeds, where he studied international history and politics. He joined the UK Civil Service in 1990 and has worked across a range of projects in railways, London Underground, industry relations, integrated policy appraisal, and communications strategy. He is currently the UK rep on the ICAO Council and has been the UK member on the Council Aviation Security Panel since 2008 and chairs the AFSEC panel's working group on threat and risk. Mr. President, permit me to nominate this gentleman, Mr. Mark Rodmell. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nigeria. Do we have any statements in response to these nominations? Jordan.
Mr. President, Jordan seconds the nomination of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. There being no further requests, I therefore declare the nominations presented by Nigeria to be the chairpersons of the commissions. Colleagues, before we move into agenda item 8, I believe Brazil has an intervention to make.
Congratulate you, Mr. President, on your election. We wish you all the best, and please count on Brazil's support during your 2 weeks here at the head of our assembly. It was supposed to be the Executive Secretary of the Ministry of Infrastructure who is here participating from this meeting. But since he's not here, I will be making the announcement. I know that everybody's aware that Brazil has offered translation into Portuguese for all the Portuguese-speaking countries that are here and who may wish to partake of this offer that Brazil is making. And we wish all the Portuguese-speaking countries all the very best in listening to the translation which is being offered by Brazil. We're very happy to be able to do this. This is the second time, and it is something that Brazil looks forward to continue to do in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brazil. We will now move into item 4 on the order of business, agenda item 8, statements by delegations of member states. Distinguished delegates, please, I'm reminding you that your oral presentations should only focus on agenda items, and I'm humbly requesting as well that they be no longer than 5 minutes. The Assembly will begin with statements from states who have made some special requests. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of China.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very pleased to attend the 40th ICAO Assembly on behalf of the Chinese government and to join you all in discussing global civil aviation development. This assembly also marks the 75th anniversary of ICAO. 75 years ago, our predecessors formulated the Convention on International Civil Aviation. They established the ICAO and laid down the legal basis and fundamental guidelines of international civil aviation. For 75 years, ICAO has lived up to its mission and greatly contributed to connectivity, exchanges of lessons and information, as well as the safe development of global civil aviation. On behalf of the Chinese government, I take this opportunity to express great appreciation to ICAO under the leadership of President Liu and Secretary General Fang Liu for its remarkable work in promoting global effective implementation of ICAO SARPs and the safe, orderly, and sustainable development of global civil aviation, enhancing civil aviation's contribution to global economic and social development, as well as facilitating friendship and exchanges among peoples. On this occasion, I extend our warmest congratulations to the ICAO for its 75th anniversary. Ladies and gentlemen, as one of the founders of ICAO and a council state, China always prioritizes safety as it develops its aviation. So far, our record for continuous safe aviation has reached 109 months, or roughly 77.5 million hours, resulting in 208 consecutive accident-free months. It always prioritizes quality as it develops its aviation. In 2018, our aviation sector was responsible for transport turnover of 120.64 billion ton kilometers, which made China the world number 2 for 14 consecutive years and contributed over 20% of global aviation growth. China has earnestly discharged its obligations as a member of the ICAO. China is actively participating in various ICAO programs and activities. We host international civil aviation conferences and build platforms for exchanges and cooperation. We responded actively to the No Country Left Behind initiative by providing training, technical, and financial support for developing countries. We engaged in broad international cooperation and have signed air service agreements with 126 countries and territories. Ladies and gentlemen, at present, global aviation is facing profound impacts brought about by technological revolution and industrial revolution. We are confronting daunting tasks of innovation, development, transformation, and integration, as well as challenges posed by uncertainties in the macro environment. This will require us to work hand in hand to address them in order to develop further. To this end, I would like to make 3 proposals. Deepening global aviation safety cooperation. Ensuring safety has always been our top priority. We must effectively promote the implementation of the ICAO Global Aviation Safety Plan and deepen pragmatic cooperation in an effort to address both traditional and non-traditional safety risks and challenges, such as technical failures, human factors, inadequate infrastructure, terrorist attacks, and cybersecurity attacks. In this way, we can reinforce aviation safety and security. Pursuing green development in civil aviation. It is our common responsibility to implement the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We must do our best to establish an international aviation emission reduction scheme, which is fair and just and embodies common but differentiated responsibilities. We must explore ways to build a green civil aviation development regime of rules and regulations with broad participation, systematic completeness, and clear-cut rights and obligations. The goal is to forge a new green development mode for civil aviation, which covers all sectors, all stakeholders, all factors, and all cycles. Promoting the liberalization of the global aviation market. It is our common vision to make a sustainable global civil aviation system a reality. With a common destiny of the mankind as our goal, we should establish a global intelligent civil aviation action plan to promote the application of new technologies and speed up digital transformation and break through the barriers of global aviation governance to realize information sharing and actively promote the liberalization and facilitation of the air transport market. China will take proactive steps to implement the consensus reached during this assembly and seize the opportunities brought about by the operations of the newly opened Beijing Daxing International Airport. Learn from the 70 years of experiences in China's civil aviation and focus on the Belt and Road Initiative, where we adopt more open and robust measures to promote quality development of China's civil aviation. Meanwhile, China will firmly support China's No Country Left Behind initiative to work with the global civil aviation community. Under ICAO's strong leadership, we will create an even brighter future for global civil aviation. In conclusion, I wish the 40th ICAO Assembly a complete success. Thank you.
And I'll give the floor to the distinguished representative of Finland.
Mr. President, Secretary General, fellow delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the ICAO Assembly is without a doubt the key event for the whole aviation sector. This year is unique. It marks the 40th Triennial Assembly. Looking ahead, I would like to focus on three key areas. First, environmental aspects. Second, integrating new users of airspace. And third, cybersecurity. Now more than ever, the global focus is on climate issues, and rightly so. Due to the rapid growth of international aviation, we must fully utilize all aspects of the ICAO's basket of measures in order to achieve the goal of carbon-neutral growth by 2020. We need to be even more ambitious, aiming at achieving carbon-neutral aviation. I'm looking forward to fruitful discussions on the ICAO's long-term goal. We need to show unity and ambition, nothing less. We have to ensure that air transport is seen as an acceptable mode of transport. All eyes are on us, meaning that also people outside this aviation community are waiting for results. I firmly believe that together we can achieve the best outcome. Our path up to this point has demonstrated that the ICAO slogan, "No country left behind," is so much more than just the banner in the foyer. The capacity building program, CORSIA, has been a true success and given so many nations the readiness to join others and start making aviation more sustainable. As vital as CORSIA is for our climate efforts, we also need to increase our efforts towards cutting emissions within the aviation sector itself. I am excited about many promising projects involving new technology. Our obligation as policymakers is to enable sustainable innovation throughout funding and persistent, reliable policies. Hybrid aircraft and electrification are the future, but capitalizing on that will take time which our climate does not have. Therefore, I urge all of you to consider what could be done. I personally place a lot of hope in sustainable aviation fuels. Unfortunately, we cannot just rely on hope to make them an operational reality on a vast scale. That much we have learned already. Effective policies are required at the national, regional, and global level. The newly formed Finnish government has decided to aim for a 30% share of sustainable aviation fuels in 2030 throughout a blending obligation. I'm glad that there are also other nations on the same track, so please join us. Mr. President, dear colleagues, we have to ensure that our air traffic management system are able to adapt new types of airspace users. I'm talking about drones and other new types of aircraft operating from very low to very high altitudes. In order to benefit from all these opportunities, we need a significantly high level of automation both on the ground and in the air. When developing rules, we have to take into consideration both traditional aviation and newcomers, and foster innovation while maintaining the highest level of safety and security. In my view, our aim should be to promote the operation of the markets and regulate only what is necessary to meet safety, security, and environmental objectives. ICAO has an important role to play in this work as an international forum that invites the contracting states to encourage increased dialogue between the various types of new entrants, existing aviation stakeholders, and the space community and industry. Mr. President, dear colleagues, digitalization brings huge benefits to society's increasing capacity and optimizing airspace, as well as enhancing aviation safety and security. On the other hand, it creates new risks. Aviation cybersecurity is a continuously evolving challenge. To respond to this challenge, we need to consider consistent aviation at global level. There is a good start thanks to ICAO initiatives in aviation cybersecurity and digitalization. but more commitments is needed from the whole aviation community and from member states. The existing strong security and safety culture provides an excellent basis for modern and sustainable cybersecurity in civil aviation. However, to make use of this opportunity, we also need to be capable of collaborating with all stakeholders affecting digital societies and cybersecurity. This requires broad-mindedness from all of us and the engagement of non-aviation stakeholders, such as the information security community, to work with the aviation community. Aviation cybersecurity also needs as holistic an approach as possible. This means the whole aviation ecosystem needs to work together seamlessly. Again, ICAO provides an exceptional foundation to coordinate its response to this challenge holistically, consistently, and at a global level. I have touched upon environment, safety, and security, which are the most important fields in aviation. We need to work on all of these three areas to maintain the public's trust in aviation. I wish the Assembly all the best in its demanding work. Mr. President, in the capacity of the Finnish presidency of the Council of the European Union, I would like to invite the representative of the European Union to continue with some additional remarks. Thank you.
Please give the mic to the
Thank you, Minister Marin, and Your Excellency, the President of the Assembly. On behalf of the European Union and its member states, I would like to extend our warm congratulations to you, and we wish you good success and stand ready to assist you in any way possible. Distinguished delegates, Your Excellencies, let me express the full support of and alignment with what Minister Marin, as presidency of the EU Council of Ministers, said about the sustainability of aviation and CORSIA, as well as about cybersecurity. I will now address you on other key topics from European perspective, such as safety, security, and navigation, and economic matters. Firstly, on safety, which is always the ultimate priority in aviation and in ICAO's work. Over time, we have together successfully built up a resilient aviation system capable of preventing accidents and responding to events in the most appropriate manner. We have also built up the USOP program, and we would like to see it further strengthened so that it is more agile, more robust, more responsive, providing relevant, accurate, and up-to-date information for all of us. To ensure a robust, integrated, and risk-based oversight, it is important to promote more cross-border cooperation in order to better respond to the development of new operational concepts and business models, including the new entrants. It is of paramount to support innovation and new solutions. We also believe that ICAO should amend its regulatory framework to facilitate states to better respond to cross-border activities and allowing effective oversight. Secondly, let me mention security, which is the other side of the same coin. We all constantly witness the evolving threat to civil aviation, and we support the UN and ICAO initiatives, notably the UN Security Council Resolution 2309 from 2016, and the strategy put in place by ICAO to support it via Global Aviation Security Plan. That is why it's essential that we could jointly make progress in its implementation in order to reach the target set out therein and to support each other throughout the process through capacity building. Thirdly, let me mention the air navigation services. We have the excellent results of the successful 13th Air Navigation Conference from last year, which is also an excellent basis for our work. We are faced in Europe and worldwide with increasingly high traffic growth, and at the same time, we have in use technology that is not able to always deliver the necessary airspace capacity. In this area, Europe is advocating first and foremost to stimulate new ways of working in air navigation, fully integrating today's digital technologies and solutions. ICAO must ensure global interoperability based on performance-based rules and make room for regional systems to test the modernization projects before bringing the successful solutions to the global level. In order to improve capacity, we also propose to think more as a network in global terms and improve data exchange as well as traffic flow management between countries. On economic issues, we need to continue working together to explore and demonstrate the benefits of air transport liberalization among states. Together, we need to pursue the development of competitive air transport that will offer increased connectivity to the passengers and the support of the development of the strong and viable and sustainable global air transport system. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, lastly, let me share with you a few words on a topic that Europe fully supports and endorses. This is our common effort to ensure that no country is left behind. Here I would like to express the very high appreciation and respect towards President Aliu, who has promoted this concept throughout his presidency. Solidarity and cooperation have always been at the forefront of our common work in ICAO, and this concept has driven these values forward. Europe will continue to make sure that no country would be left behind, and will continue to help to implement this concept through many concrete cooperation projects. Once again, I wish you all a very successful assembly, and let us make it together a great success for all. Thank you for your attention.
The distinguished delegate representative of Mexico, you have the floor.
Mr. President of the 40th Assembly of ICAO, delegates, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. The government of Mexico is committed to bringing deep social, political, and economic change in which modernization of transport, in particular air transport, have a fundamental role. The National Development Strategy requires an infrastructure for safe, efficient, modern, and sustainable connectivity, both within the country and to the outside. To enhance this connectivity, Mexico has signed bilateral agreements with 53 countries, and our airports serve 103 domestic and international airlines. Mexico has, moreover, become an important center for the development of the aerospace industry. In 2018, it ranked 15th in the world for production of aerospace parts. As a result of an in-depth technical, economic, and environmental assessment and following consultations with citizens, we canceled a huge project to build a city airport where Lake Texcoco once was, close to Mexico City, which would have entailed the closure of the Mexico City Airport and Santa Lucia Airport, leaving the capital area dangerously underserved. To meet the growth in passenger and cargo operations, a new project is being developed for the metropolitan airport system made up of the international airports of Mexico City, Toluca, and Santa Lucia. And it began with a comprehensive plan to modernize and upgrade Benito Juarez Airport and build a new terminal. On the basis of ICAO guidance, we are redesigning airspace, both metropolitan airspace and national airspace, founded on performance-based navigation procedures, PBN, and the modernization of navigation equipment and systems in Mexican airspace. I'm pleased to inform you that in accordance with the recommendations of this organization, we have authorized the creation of the Federal Civil Aviation Agency as a decentralized administrative body of the Communications and Transport Secretariat, which will have the necessary technical and administrative autonomy to function effectively. Since the last ICAO Assembly, as member of the Council, Mexico has cooperated closely in the work to meet the strategic objectives set for the last triennium, thus reaffirming our commitment to the principles and values of this organization. In support of the No Country Left Behind initiative, we are continuing to support the ICAO Regional Office in Mexico City and the Global Aviation Safety Plan and other multilateral initiatives such as the Global Aviation Security Plan and the Global Air Navigation Plan, which pose a challenge to the whole community in addressing the current level of safety, aviation safety, and which will require a holistic approach for the organization and its member states to address in a harmonized fashion the challenges, taking into account the circumstances and capacities of the states. The same is true for ICAO's concern about drugs and alcohol in connection with air safety. We also are concerned about next-generation cybersecurity solutions, which is a key component for the safe and efficient operation of aviation systems around the world. And we support ICAO's cybersecurity strategy, as well as the risk management approach to the potential threat represented by remotely piloted aircraft, namely drones. The government of Mexico supports the leadership of this organization and all actions to protect the environment. We recognize progress in implementation of measures to reduce the CO2 emissions of international aviation, and we are aware that we must double our efforts to make more progress in this field. We support Finland's initiative. Mexico, as the first country to sign up for the Corsia scheme, applauds the progress achieved in response to the request by the last Assembly for prompt implementation. As part of cooperation with the neighboring countries in ICAO, we formalized the agreement with the states of North America for the promotion of air safety, as well as an agreement with the European Union Safety Agency to strengthen the partnerships for regulatory frameworks and technical assistance. We are very keen to continue our work as members of the Council in Group 2, and we appeal for the support of member states for re-election. We promise to continue to make an active contribution in support of the work of ICAO in the states toward the goal of the safe and reliable development of civil aviation. Distinguished delegates, I would like to, on behalf of Mexico, recognize the work of the Council of ICAO, of its president, Dr. Aliu, and all of the Secretariat for the achievements in this triennium. And I state Mexico's commitment to, in cooperation with ICAO, rise to the present and future challenges as regards safety, security, air navigation, and sustainability of air transport. Thank you very much.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Spain.
Señor presidente, distinguidos.
Mr. President, distinguished delegates, I would like to begin by conveying my greetings to the international civil aviation community on the occasion of the 40th Assembly and the 75th anniversary of this organization. International civil aviation, as we know it today, with the levels of safety and efficiency and accessibility never before achieved, would be unthinkable without the work done by ICAO in the last 75 years. In 2018, more than half of the global population is thought to have used air transport. In Spain, over 263 million travelers transited through our airports, with a growth rate of about 6%, reaching the 5th consecutive year of growth, a trend that will continue in 2019, according to the figures recorded so far. 2019, therefore, has been a year of growth in air transport, but also a time to commemorate because it marks the centenary of commercial air transport in our country. Spain has always been a country open to the world, and aviation and our airports are the gateway for many of those who visit us. Currently, we are the second largest tourist destination in the world, and we rank 5th in the world in air passenger throughput. We have excellent infrastructure and a sector with leading companies in their respective fields, such as the National Airports Management Association, IANA, the largest airport operator in terms of numbers of passengers handled in aire. This is why Spain attaches the greatest importance to its participation in ICAO and to our contribution to the achievement of the aims of this organization. This commitment goes back to the early days. Spain was one of the countries that 75 years ago took part in the Chicago Conference and was one of the first states to ratify the convention. We fully intend to continue supporting the important work carried out by this organization, and Spain is renewing its bid to join the Council in Part 2, and we hope to have the support of the other member states and validate the trust placed in us by all those who voted for us on previous occasions. Aviation has major challenges ahead that will require our commitment, effort, and dedication. An effort that begins here now is sustainability. Climate change is an unquestionable reality which we must all act on. And although aviation has taken positive steps forward, society demands more. We have to continue strengthening the commitment to the CORSIA scheme, searching for ways to continue growing without increasing emissions and even reducing them in order to achieve the Global Sustainable Development Goals. To this end, new entrants in our sky will also be another challenge for the future. Accommodating the proliferation of high-altitude operations, namely by drones, will require seamless integration into airspace in order to ensure the safety of operations at all times. ICAO should initiate the important task of revising its provisions to enable these new developments and make them compatible with traditional operations. Aeronautics, like any other industry, is no stranger to the advancement of information technologies and data exchange. This opens up endless possibilities, but also new threats. It will be essential to provide the entire global aviation system with adequate cybersecurity safeguards. Without a doubt, these threats require states and international organizations to work together in a flexible manner and effectively to provide us with modern and effective solutions for protection. Safety in all its aspects will remain among aviation's priorities. It cannot be otherwise. Unfortunately, reality shows that although aviation remains the safest means of transport in the world, it sometimes fails from time to time. Therefore, when unfortunately tragedy cannot be avoided, we must at least turn all our efforts to the victims and their family members and be prepared at all levels to support them in their mourning and offer them all possible assistance. In Spain, we fully understand this, and we know that the Assembly will give special attention to this matter and provide support for victims' associations, and that their needs will be heard. Air transport does away with borders and fosters economic and social development, bringing cultures closer together. We must continue moving in this direction. May the discussions here serve to achieve greater consensus and commitment for the development of civil aviation throughout the world, thus contributing to the prosperity and quality of life of all nations and peoples of the world. On behalf of the Spanish delegation, I can guarantee our utmost commitment to ensure that this Assembly achieves the desired success. Thank you very much.
The distinguished representative of Qatar.
In the name of Allah, Excellency the President of the Assembly, Excellency the President of ICAO, Madam Secretary General, Excellencies, the heads of delegations, allow me, first of all, to express my pleasure to be amongst you for the 40th Assembly of this agency that is doing its utmost to lay down the foundations and develop the means for its development of air navigation and plan for its future. It is as we're working hard towards the promotion of air transport industry in a safe and secure way. Indeed, air transport is one of the main drivers and contributors to world economic growth and prosperity. The state of Qatar has made great strides in the development of the civil aviation through a solid infrastructure based on internationally approved specifications that is likely to contribute to sustained development and that meets universal environmental criteria while preserving lives and property and providing safe air route in conformity with Vision 2030. Qatar has always keen on upholding the principles of the organization, promoting its message and endeavors to cooperate with it in various fields. Hence, Qatar was the first country of the Middle East region to issue guidance for the implementation of cybersecurity criteria in order to counter cyber threats and risks in civil aviation sector. The Civil Aviation Authority published guidelines on cybersecurity in the civil aviation sector, detailing the principles and criteria for the protection of critical areas in aviation, as well as best practices in the field. This was in line with ICAO recommendation that urge states to elaborate such measures and cooperate with and support each other at the regional and international levels. Furthermore, Qatar scored the highest compliance rates over the world in the field of aviation security and safety, namely 99.1 and 91% in the respectively, which reflects the effectiveness of civil aviation safety and security systems in Qatar. In the environment field, Qatar Vision 2030 provides for the attainment of UN Sustainable Development Goals. For this purpose, the Civil Aviation Authority is collecting best practices to mitigate the environmental impact of the sector and ensure its sustainability. It is in the process of elaborating a voluntary work plan to be applied next year. Also, in collaboration with ICAO, Qatar launched a scholarship program for students in developing countries, members of the organization. In 2018, students benefited from scholarships in order to upgrade their skills and therefore the capacity of their countries to implement ICAO SARPs. The scholarship program is expected to be renewed and extended to new students. In addition, Qatar has been organizing since 1986, training courses for over 2,000 specialists from 80 countries and regions, and granted more than 400 scholarships for trainees in developing countries during the last 2 decades. Last but not least, Qatar has been contributing to the work of the organization and is ranked 18 among the countries most supportive of ICAO, according to the latter's reports. It made great contributions to No Country Left Behind initiative, as well as to other programs. Ladies and gentlemen, our country contributed greatly to the development of air transport sector in the world. Thanks to our national carrier, we are serving numerous destinations, and our strategic geographical position turned our country into a central link among different parts of the world. This in addition to Hamad International Airport, which is among the best in the world. It is presently undergoing extension so as to accommodate 53 million passengers a year. In parallel, our national carrier is world-renowned and has an impeccable safety record. It is the first company to undergo audit by IATA and passed it with a score of 100. We are celebrating the 57th anniversary of the Chicago Convention, and it is an opportunity to express our pride in belonging to this august agency and express our gratitude to it. Mr. President, we have to stress that Qatar observes international treaties and instruments deposited with the United Nations and international organizations as part of our responsibilities in the field of civilization. The observance of international treaties and instruments is an inherent feature of the history of Qatar. Some may not like this, but it is a tradition inculcated by our leadership in commitment to ourselves and other countries in the region and the world. From this rostrum, we call upon all the member states to show their commitment to the treaties, especially Chicago Convention and transit treaties, and not use them as a mere motto to attain interim goals. We will remain faithful to our commitment towards ICAO and continue to uphold its ideals and principles. In parallel, we will continue our cooperation policy for the implementation of future projects, the purpose being to keep pace with the evolution of this ever-developing sector for the benefit and future of our nation, and for it to play its role among the world's nations. Thank you, Mr. President.
I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sweden.
Mr. President of the Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, we are all here today to take action. In Paris 2015, the world agreed on the goal to limit the increase of temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. I want to underline how essential it is to fulfill this commitment. For a Swedish perspective, we have even higher ambition. The Swedish government has declared its intention for Sweden to become one of the first fossil fuel-free welfare nations. There is only one way forward. We must reduce greenhouse gas emission dramatically and reduce fossil fuel dependence in all parts of society. A radical shift is needed, especially in the transport sector. New technology and innovations will help us. Electrification, biofuels, and increased transport efficiency are important measures. The aviation industry has started its work. It has set ambitious goals to reduce the global footprint. But more needs to be done. We need to combine this with courage and political leadership. And from my perspective, transport ministers have to be the new climate ministers. 3 years ago, the Assembly took the historic decision of establishing CORSIA as the global market-based measure for international aviation. To have this agreement is nothing but a huge political success. Sweden stands fully behind CORSIA and urge all states to join the pilot phase. An efficient and ambitious CORSIA is a must for seriously reducing the CO2 emissions from aviation. National and regional measures and incentives also play a vital part. In Sweden, we introduced an aviation tax in 2018, and we are currently looking into how we can differentiate airport charges further in order to reward a more sustainable version. We are also preparing a reduction obligation for fuel suppliers to reduce their emission through use of biojet fuel. The Swedish aviation industry has, through the Association Swedish Aviation, developed a roadmap for how Swedish aviation can become fossil-free. The roadmap shows how domestic flights can be completely fossil-free in 2030, and our flights starting from Swedish airports can be fossil-free in 2045. These are all important measures, but more needs to be done. We must start discussing taxation. It should be possible to tax fossil jet fuel in international aviation. To tax aviation fuel would make a lot of sense. Not only would it address climate change, it would also address imbalances that exist between different means of transportation. Today, the aviation sector has an exception when it comes to taxing jet fuel. But no sector can, in the long term, have such a free pass. All transport sector must contribute to reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement. So to fully achieve this, we need solidarity. All states should be given the support to develop sustainable and safe aviation. And that is why initiatives such as No Country Left Behind are so important. Climate change knows no borders. We are in this together. So dear delegates, dear colleagues, from last Friday and 1 week onwards, millions of young people around the world are now gathering to strike for the climate. The world is watching. It's time for action. Let's get to work.
Distinguished representative of Senegal, you have the floor.
Monsieur le
President of the Assembly, heads of delegation, President of the Council, Dr. Aliou, my dear brother, Madam Secretary General, distinguished guests of all ranks and functions. I am pleased to have the honor today to take the floor on behalf of the President of the Republic of Senegal, His Excellency Macky Sall, before the 40th Assembly of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. Please allow me first to express my warm congratulations to the President of the Council, Dr. Bernard Aliou, for the good work done in the course of his mandates. To the Secretary General, Dr. Fang Liu, I pay a well-deserved tribute for her commitment and determination to ensure the proper functioning of the institution, and I extend to her my thanks for the warm welcome shown to my delegation. I would like to associate myself with the votes of thanks to the Government of Canada and the City of Montreal, which is home to the headquarters of ICAO. Ladies and gentlemen, my country, Senegal, hosts headquarters of numerous civil aviation organizations. The ICAO Regional Office for Western and Central Africa, WACAF, the African Civil Aviation Commission, AFCAC, the IATA Office for Western Africa, and the Agency for Air Navigation Safety in Africa and Madagascar, ASECNA. In 2015, Senegal introduced a development plan called Plan Sénégal Émergent, PSE, and one of the 27 flagship projects is the development of an aviation hub in the sub-region. The aim is to make Senegal the primary aviation hub in Western Africa and take in an expected 5 million travelers per year by 2023 and 10 million by 2035. The work began with the commissioning of a new international airport, Blaise Diagne, BDIA, on December 7, 2017, on International Civil Aviation Day. With annual traffic growth of 9.42%, BDIA Airport today is served by 35 scheduled airlines. Senegal, by creating a national airline, has demonstrated its ambitions. Since May 2018, Air Senegal SA has been in operation and currently serves the domestic market, the sub-region, and France, and soon Spain and the United States. Moreover, the program to upgrade Senegal airports launched in December 2018 will, in a first phase, cover 5 regional airports for a total cost of $167 million US. And in the second phase, it will bring 8 other airports up to standard. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, the state of Senegal is convinced that the development of civil aviation requires that the problems of safety and security be dealt with robustly. This is why we have always accepted ICAO's assistance through the universal oversight programs in these two fields. Indeed, our country underwent a safety audit on its civil aviation system in February 2019 and showed a compliance level of 67%. Security of the aviation system in Senegal was also evaluated under the USAP program. Today, many challenges are looming, and we are pleased to reiterate our commitment to work with ICAO to address all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I must share some objectives being set by our country to ensure that our airports are secure and safe and top quality. We are building an aircraft maintenance center. We're creating an aeronautical training center and also an airport city complex to enable BDIA to have facilities commensurate with an aviation hub. As you can see, these plans clearly indicate our vision for air transport development and to make Senegal a destination. I have no doubt that this session will afford everyone an opportunity to identify and evaluate all aspects to support the development of air transport and reinforce safety and security of international civil aviation. I would like to reiterate Senegal's support for all of the initiatives to ensure that civil aviation is safe and secure and brings economic and social development. Thank you.
And I'll give the floor to the distinguished representative of France.
Mr. President, colleagues, our Assembly is meeting at a paradoxical time for aviation. It's a time period that is full of as many promises as risks, and the intensity of the activity surely is shown in the quantity and variety of documents submitted to the 40th session. And this means that we need to be very clear about our priorities for the coming years. With this in mind, I would like to talk about innovation, climate change, security, cybersecurity, and finally governance. I will start with innovation, which bedazzles and sometimes bewilders us, as demonstrated by the projects presented during the Innovation Fair, and I would like to welcome the participants in that fair. As regards traditional aircraft, we must promote all advances towards cleaner and safer airplanes. But the accidents that occurred involving the 737 MAX challenge us, all of us, as regulators, to demonstrate our ability to communicate well with the designers and to ensure good levels of both trust and oversight. Indeed, our abilities are being tested even more with the new entrants, drones, urban taxis, and suborbital vehicles, which are designed to fly above or below regular air traffic. And what shall we make of the changes that are coming with the introduction of artificial intelligence, blockchain, new propulsion technologies, and other innovations? As it was said during the IWAF, these innovations are being proposed to us faster and faster. And this is why we at ICAO must adapt to this and be more strategic and more sustained in our dialogue with industry. And therefore, we have proposed the Working Paper 113, which proposes to create a dedicated structure, an Innovation Advisory Council. Others have made similar but slightly different proposals, but they have the same idea behind them. And I hope that we will arrive at a satisfactory solution, and we need to move beyond words to acts. Now, the second priority, climate change. We are rightly proud of the fact that aviation was the first sector to produce a tool such as CORSIA, which is a global tool for CO2 emissions reductions and offsetting. However, we must be very clear and aware. The CORSIA is still not very well known, and some people consider it not to be sufficient. And so these fears are not shared in the same way everywhere in the world, but in Europe, they are very alive. and they are even fueling campaigns criticizing the role and the value of aviation. And this is why we must demonstrate joint determination without useless polemics, which respects the situations of each party. The countries who need to have more time to prepare should have this. And so this is why CORSIA was structured in phases. But other countries that are more prepared, like France, have to have the latitude to be more ambitious. Now, to security. Air transport is probably more secure than ever before, but it is also more threatened than ever before. And so we are pleased about the developments, but there are many threats. And to respond to these, we need to work together on this issue and on others in an inclusive manner, in a pragmatic way, ensuring that all the members of the global aviation community work together. As you know, Mr. President, colleagues, France has had tragic experiences associated with terrorism. Fortunately, it was able to foil attempts recently against attacks. But this is not a matter of chance. This is the result of unfailing determination and a prioritization at the highest level. And so at ICAO too, we think that security must now have the same priority as safety. And we think that oversight needs to apply to effective security and not only to documentation. Our organization must ensure that the results of the audits reflect the reality on the ground. Mr. President, the risks are diversifying, and now I would like to speak about cybersecurity. It is certainly the major new risk, which is targeting all of the air transport chain, whether it's the aircraft, air navigation, or passenger identification data. France is presenting a working paper in which it sets out its experience with the national entity created in 2018 for the cybersecurity in air transport. And there's a council, and it brings together all of the relevant authorities, civil and military, as well as industry and service providers. We propose the creation in ICAO of a dedicated entity, which could be a panel. There will be other different proposals that are along these same lines, and we would be very pleased to work together to try to find the best solution in terms of governance. The important thing is to move past working in silos and to take on a cross-cutting approach. To be able to meet this new risk, we need to be fast, ambitious, and creative. And so the last topic I would like to address today is governance, Mr. President and colleagues, but without moving away from cybersecurity, because our organization was recently the victim of very serious incidents in this area. France believes in multilateralism, and therefore, given the global nature of aviation, France believes in the central role of ICAO. This requires a lot of trust, and it's demanding. It's demanding in terms of the respect that is due to all of the members and to the officials of the organization, as regards the truth of the debates that are held there, and regarding the actions that are taken. And so it is essential for us to work to be able to reestablish this trust as soon as possible so that we can meet the challenges that I mentioned. Moreover, to meet these challenges, we have to be able to demonstrate courage to be able to reform the structures and the working methods of the organization. This is one of the issues that awaiting the council that we will elect. So if ICAO fails to demonstrate greater agility, inclusivity, and transparency, it risks of being marginalized or of disappearing. We cannot rest on our laurels. We count on ICAO for meeting the challenges in the next 75 years in the aviation sector. And so it is up to us to be imaginative and determined. Mr. President, colleagues, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who was a great pilot and a great writer, has taught us that the grandeur of a profession is above all uniting men. This is a nice thought that we could certainly adopt to guide the spirit of our work. Thank you.
The distinguished representative of the Cameroon.
the President of the 40th Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, by taking part in this session, on behalf of the Head of State, His Excellency President Paul Biya, Cameroon demonstrates its commitment to international civil aviation policies and initiatives and expresses political will at the highest level to invest in its development within the multilateral framework. Thus, during the 2016-2019 triennium, the government has relentlessly carried out significant actions in order to improve the performances of the air transport sector in accordance with ICAO's relevant strategic objectives. Dans le domaine de la sécurité,
in the area of safety, the enhancement of the National Safety Oversight System is ongoing with the certification of international airports. The process is about to be finalized at the Yaoundé-Nsimalen Airport, International Airport, and it will continue at the other airports. We have also had developments in the implementation of the renovation and modernization program for the airports and of the air navigation. And these can be seen now at the Douala International Airport. As regards security, the level of the implementation of the ICAO standards and recommended practices has been determined. And in fact, the national security system has been overhauled through the implementation of operational security units at the international airports of Yaoundé-Nsimalen and Douala. The efforts were confirmed by the results of the ICAO audit in April 2018. In this audit, Cameroon recorded the following: a rate of 70.96% compliance with the Annex 17 standards, which is an increase of 7.58% vis-à-vis the results of the previous audit. And also, 68.85% of an effective implementation rate of the aviation security system, oversight system, which is an increase of 16.7% vis-à-vis the previous audit results.
Passengers traffic has steadily increased by 5% per year due to the densification of its air agreements portfolio and improved conditions to operate for designated air carriers. In the same vein, and in order to implement the air transport liberalization policies preached by ICAO, Cameroon in 2018 signed the solemn undertaking to join the single African air transport market, thereby indicating government's will to implement the Yamoussoukro decision.
As regards environmental protection, I note with satisfaction that the action plan for reducing CO2 emissions submitted by Cameroon in 2015 has been validated and its implementation has shown tangible results. In fact, with the ICAO technical assistance through a project financed by the European Union, in 2018, the Douala International Airport has benefited from this project with the installation of photovoltaic solar panels and fixed electric power arrays on the ground, as well as modern air preconditioning units. This power system makes it possible to power the equivalent of 14 aircraft. As for capacity building, the Cameroon Civil Aviation Authority Training Center has joined the Trainair Plus program as an associate member. Doing so has enabled the school to have access to more than 200 training kits and will contribute to reducing the training costs for aviation staff in Cameroon. Moreover, in October 2018, the Douala Training Center has obtained ICAO certification, which establishes it as an AVSEC regional training center. Thus, it is the first of its kind in the Central African subregion, the 6th in Africa, and the 34th in the world.
I would like to seize this opportunity to thank the states and organizations here present for the multidimensional support they provide to Cameroon in its efforts to develop civil aviation. Long live international cooperation. Long live ICAO. I thank you for your kind attention.
I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Italy.
General, heads of delegations, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to be here with all of you to deliver, as the Italian Civil Aviation Authority President, the Italian statement on this 40th session of the ICAO Assembly. I take the opportunity to congratulate with Mr. Nari William Singh, Director General of Jamaica Civil Aviation, for his election to President of this 40th session of the ICAO Assembly. On behalf of the Italian government and the Italian Minister of Infrastructures and Transport, I wish to express my deepest thanks to ICAO and to the Government of Canada hosting this important event, following close to the celebrations of the 75th anniversary of the Chicago Convention signing. Could you even imagine a world without that visionary convention, which formalized the international civil aviation as a key tool of prosperity and connection of people and culture worldwide? Italy, together with all the countries that ratified the Chicago Convention, committed itself to cooperate in ensuring the highest possible level of compliance with its technical annexes, including ICAO standards and recommended practices, with the objective to apply universally accepted rules for the development of a safe, secure, efficient, and sustainable international air transport. Therefore, as member of the ICAO Council since 1950, and as 8th major financial contributor to the organization, Italy participates in all ICAO programs and cooperates in the fulfillment of the 5 ICAO strategy objectives. Accordingly, Italy is willing to take the unique occasion offered by the 40th session of the ICAO Assembly to address those objectives and ensure that the forecasted growing demand for air services, airport and airspace infrastructures would have no impact on the international civil aviation safety, security, efficiency, convenience, and environmental protection. In particular, Italy wants to improve aviation safety by supporting the continued implementation of global aviation safety oversight system, enhance a cooperative and effective oversight of cross-border operations, implement secure satellite-based communication, navigation, and surveillance services, and support a cross-domain approach to drive the digitalization and transformation of air traffic management. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding safety, Italy is proud to announce that during this 40th ICAO Assembly, by the subscription of a dedicated memorandum of understanding, the Italian Civil Aviation Authority will donate to ICAO a software tool named SDAC, Spatial Distribution of Aircraft Crashes, including a database of air accidents occurred worldwide in the last 20 years, which will be useful to support the evaluation of risks related to aircraft accidents and define the shape and dimension of the safety areas on ground and around airports. The tool, presented in the frame of the ICAO Aerodrome Design and Operation Panel last April, received appreciation from the ICAO Air Navigation Commission. Italy is also willing to promote the effective implementation of the ICAO Global Aviation Security Plan and the greater implementation of measures for the provision of a globally harmonized assistance to aircraft accident victims and their families, including a specialized psychosocial training for all involved actors. Moreover, Italy already implements and is ready to support the application of the ICAO core principles on consumer protection. Furthermore, in the frame of the ICAO No Country Left Behind initiative, Italy wants to remind its commitment to assistance, capacity building, and training programs on environmental sustainability, like the contribution already given to ACT Corsia and the ICAO States Action Plan Buddy program. Italy wants to keep contributing to the efficient functioning of the organization as member of the ICAO Council. Starting on 1962, Italy has been re-elected within the group of the member states eligible in Council Part 1, States of Chief Importance in Air Transport. Italy's last reconfirmation in 2016 saw a great score, 166 on 170 votes, a result we look forward at least to equaling even this year. Therefore, Italy, as candidate in the Council election to be held in the frame of this 14th General Assembly, has the honor to request the valuable support of ICAO member states to be re-elected in the ICAO Council Part 1. Last but not least, Italy is very honored to have as candidate for the position of President of the Council of ICAO for the upcoming election of autumn 2019, Mr. Salvatore Sciacchitano. His high-level qualifications and 39 years' experience in aviation, serving in senior managerial positions both in national and international organizations, make him an excellent candidate. The Italian government is fully convinced that Mr. Sciacchitano's long-standing experience, in-depth knowledge of ICAO and its strategic objectives, outstanding managerial skills and proven leadership, along with his moral integrity, will represent a significant asset for the ICAO Council in order to address the challenges of the international air transport in the coming years. Italy is willing to proceed in the active role it has always played in promoting the highest and most homogeneous compliance with ICAO standards and recommended practices, and wish to continue together with all ICAO member states along the path of a fruitful cooperation. To come to the conclusion of my statement, I wish to all of us a very productive and successful assembly. Thank you very much for your support and attention.
And I'll give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ukraine.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, in our dreams we fly, and what else is a flight if not a dream coming true, which makes all of us here one of the most distinguished communities operating dreams. And I'm happy to greet all of you on behalf of Ukraine. as the Secretariat was kind enough to make our full address available to the delegates, I will use this chance just to reinforce some key thoughts on our side. I'll speak about recent developments in our aviation industry, about our future priorities, and of course about the situation in the Black Sea region. Firstly, about developments in Ukraine. Since 2016, Ukraine has been enjoying astonishing growth in air traffic to and from the country by 20% every year. It is one of the highest results globally, and it reflects both the vibrant economic reality on the ground and also our tremendous efforts to make the Ukrainian skies friendly and easy to navigate. We have opened our airspace to carriers from other countries, and we adopt the best European and global practices of airspace management to facilitate this growing demand and growing traffic. In order to improve the European route network, Ukraine applies free route airspace operation concept in our skies. We have successfully implemented several phases of FRA, including cross-border operations, and we plan to expand this concept further. Moreover, Ukraine is introducing advanced flexible use of airspace concept and enhanced civil-military coordination. I'm also pleased to report that last year the Ukrainian Air Navigation Service was certified by the European Aviation Safety Agency according to the highest EU standards. You can expect Ukraine to work hard, fast, and smart in implementing the best EU and ICAO regulations. We understand that being one of the biggest countries in Europe means great opportunities and a lot of responsibilities. We have our new national transport strategy of Ukraine for the years up to 2030. We will make sure our skies are friendly, safe, and easy to navigate. Speaking on our future priorities within ICAO, Ukraine is proud to be a good member of this very distinguished community, and you can count on us in our alignment with the ICAO priorities in the fields of safety, environment, economic growth, and others. We are committed to the implementation of CORSIA, and we are searching for new ways to address climate change. We also recognize the importance of safe use of unmanned aircraft as one of the top ICAO priorities. We highly praise the No Country Left Behind initiative. We see it as a good opportunity both to learn and to share the knowledge of Ukrainian experts and professionals within our aviation family. We strongly believe in the power of international organizations. When good rules are followed, each of us benefits. We will stick with this. And this is why I would like to draw attention of this Assembly once again to the situation when one of the ICAO member states does not observe fundamental provisions of the Convention of International Civil Aviation. Starting from April 2014, the Russian Federation has been trying to declare in unilateral manner the right for provision of air navigation services within Simferopol flight information region by publishing respective technical information and attempting to interfere with air traffic services provided by Ukraine. It's illegal, wrong, dangerous, and this should be stopped. Ukraine is working in close cooperation with ICAO and its international partners to secure safe and functional air traffic flow over the high seas within the Simferopol flight information region. Ukraine strongly supports ICAO's commitment to the Chicago Convention and the UN resolutions. The tragic memories of the MH17 shot by the Russian missile in the Ukrainian skies should keep us alert on this. We cannot afford any compromise on safety, on the rules, and we cannot let any of us use ICAO as a ground to legalize illegal occupation of Crimea. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to pledge my country's commitment to the principles and traditions of ICAO. I would also like to thank the Secretariat, led by Secretary General Fan Lu, for their dedicated and restless work. And I would like to thank President Aliou for his exceptional leadership. On a personal note, Dr. Aliou, we always remember that you studied aviation in Kiev, Ukraine, and I cannot think of a better way to make your Ukrainian friends proud than your committed work in the interest of the whole international aviation community. Thank you. And let's remember that this is a community of great professionals and also visionaries and dreamers and those who have a very distinguished responsibility to navigate dreams of mankind. The dream to fly, the dream to live in peace and prosperity and respect to each other. Let's work on that. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, just to remind us all that our presentations, we will stick to the items on our agenda for the Assembly. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of India.
President of the Assembly, President of the Council, Honorable Ministers and Chief Delegates, Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We meet on this special occasion not only to celebrate the 40th year of the General Assembly of ICAO, but also to mark the 75th anniversary of the Convention on International Civil Aviation, the Chicago Convention. I deem it a great honor and privilege to present this brief statement on behalf of India at the 40th session of this General Assembly of ICAO. My full statement will be released for the record later. India has registered double-digit growth in domestic air traffic over the last 5 years and is today the third largest civil aviation market in terms of domestic passengers carried. This double-digit growth has come with a market penetration of just 7%. This in and of itself indicates the enormous potential of this sector. In 2018-19, Indian airports handled about 350 million passengers. Estimates from a host of agencies suggest this number will rise anywhere to between 677 to 1.17 billion by March 2040. Indian skies today have approximately 690 domestically registered civil aviation aircraft. Within a few years, this figure is likely to go beyond 2,000. India today has about 100 operational airports, 35 of which also cater to international travel. We expect both these numbers to double in the next 5 years. In other words, the India of 2024 is likely to have 200 operational airports, with 70 of them, Excellencies, catering to international travel. The Government of India has introduced several policy and regulatory reforms to ensure that the potential of our civil aviation sector is fully realized. In June 2016, India unveiled a new civil aviation policy. In October 2016, as part of this new civil aviation policy, we launched a regional connectivity scheme with the twin objectives of making air travel affordable to the common person and connecting cities and towns that were hitherto unconnected. This growth in the civil aviation sector is mindful of two absolute necessities, the first of which is passenger safety. ICAO's Air Navigation Bureau has commended India's implementation of the State Safety Program. We have state-of-the-art communication, navigation, and surveillance facilities for providing air navigation services over a vast airspace. We are acutely conscious and mindful that our growth must be climate-friendly and meet the highest global standards of sustainability. Our commitment to both is therefore complete and total. India is the first country to develop a national green aviation policy for ensuring sustainable growth of civil aviation. Cochin Airport in the southern Indian state of Kerala is the first in the world to meet 100% of its energy requirements from solar energy. We are committed to ensuring that India's civil aviation sector not only conforms to, but leads the transition to environmentally sustainable aviation. ICAO's carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for international Aviation, CORSIA, needs in the same spirit to fully respond to and integrate the concerns of developing nations. Internationally agreed principles of accounting of greenhouse gases, as laid down under the UN Framework Convention for Climate Change, UNFCCC, place the responsibility for mitigation of GHG emissions with the member states and not with sectoral sources of emissions. The inventory of GHG emissions is prepared at the national level and reported internationally as per accepted standard methodology. Accordingly, each country is held responsible under the UNFCCC principles for the production and regulation of greenhouse gases produced within its boundary. Similar principle of member states-driven mitigation in the aviation sector should also be considered and eventually adopted by ICAO. However, under CORSIA Resolution A39/3, the emissions of each aircraft operator form the basis of the scheme, leaving the country totally out of it. Such change in the basic concept for one particular sector, the aviation sector, needs to be revisited. The right criterion for deciding the baseline emission levels would be to count the share of emissions of a country in the aviation sector on the basis of revenue ton kilometers of its nationals traveling as international passengers, irrespective of the airlines used by them. Such RTKMs as a percentage of the total worldwide international RTKMs should be taken as a factor for computing the baseline emission levels for the country concerned in 2019-20, and also for deciding upon the excess emissions to be offset by the country concerned in the first or second phase as it might choose. This will take into account the differences among countries and enable the baseline to be set at the realistic thresholds based on equity and justice. In accordance with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities adopted by UNFCCC, CORSIA rightly provides for phased implementation and gives member states the option to skip the first phase and join the scheme in the second phase, which will start in 2027. Airlines of developing states who choose to join in the second phase would clearly be placed at a serious disadvantage if the baseline for emissions remains pegged at 2019-20 levels. This would effectively deprive them of the benefit of the option of joining the second phase. This August Assembly needs to integrate the interests of the developing states and agree on some adjustments in the scheme as per the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities adopted by UNFCCC. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I make these suggestions in the spirit that our commitment, India's commitment to climate-friendly aviation, which should meet the highest global standards of sustainability, is complete and total. I wish the Assembly session great success and do hope that the deliberations throughout this Assembly session will lead to some very useful decisions for the aviation industry, including in respect of CORSIA. I thank you very much.
The distinguished representative of Peru, you have the floor.
Señor Presidente.
President of the Assembly of ICAO, President of the Council of ICAO, Secretary General, delegations. The Republic of Peru, which I am proud to represent as the Civil Aviation Authority before this illustrious assembly, is grateful for the opportunity to address all the delegations of the member states gathered here, to express to each and every one of them our warmest and most fraternal greetings and wishes for the success of the deliberations and agreements that arise from the 40th Assembly. Peru is a state party to the Chicago Convention of 1944 and a founding state of ICAO. And we wish to share with the global aviation community our proud satisfaction and deep commitment for our government, in particular the Civil Aviation Authority, to present its candidacy to the Council of ICAO under Part 3 on its own behalf, and also by designation of the countries of the community, the Andean Community of Nations in the South American Rotation Group, and also in representation of the 22 member states making up the Latin American Civil Aviation Commission, LACAC, which is headquartered in Peru. Our country has cooperated unstintingly with ICAO since its inception, having the high honor of hosting in Lima since its creation in 1948, the Regional Office for South America. This year, we had the dual satisfaction of welcoming to Lima the members of the Council and the Secretary General to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the ICAO SAM office. We also welcomed the members of the Air Navigation Commission who were able to see in situ the major progress made by Peru in air navigation, such as 100% implementation nationwide of performance-based navigation procedures, PBN, for the optimization of airspace and the implementation of an air traffic flow management system, ATFM, to reduce wait times for aircraft on the ground and in the sky. We have successfully met the challenges posed by our large mountainous surface area and the heavy air traffic at our main airports. This and other significant progress in optimizing air navigation and safety has been possible thanks to the support of our highly skilled personnel and the cooperation inspired by our organization, ICAO. We have demonstrated in deeds our stalwart commitment to the policies and standards of our organization. Peru has been honored this year with the President of the Council certificate, which validates the high level of effective implementation of ICAO SARPs, close to 90%. Much has yet to be done and improved in this dynamic activity, and Peru has made other significant achievements in civil aviation, which are too many to list. But to give you one example, we've seen an increase in passenger traffic in the last 10 years of 12.1% on average, and this is one of the highest figures in the region. This traffic growth is expected to reach 30.9 million passengers by 2021. There's been an increase in 71% in the number of air operations in the same period. We have expanded air coverage to remote areas in the Amazon and have incorporated secondary regional routes with countries on the continent. And we have reached new air service liberalization agreements with states in the Middle East and Asia Pacific. The rapid development of air navigation in our country would not have been possible without technical cooperation from ICAO, in particular through the Technical Cooperation Bureau, which efficiently manages the technical assistance agreement that provides us with the best human resources to ensure the proper functioning of our authority, as well as the South American Regional Office, with which we interact on an ongoing basis, and we are able to bring skills and capacities to regional projects. Mr. President, delegates, Peru reaffirms its unwavering will as a state policy to support all the efforts of our organization to improve the safety and security of civil aviation, reduce carbon emissions and greenhouse gases of aviation under the CORSIA scheme approved in the 39th Assembly, creating the necessary capacities to achieve those objectives, the progressive liberalization of international air transport, taking account of the special circumstances in each agreement, and promoting the development of robust commercial aviation with a fleet and aviation personnel that meets the needs of the public. This meets the goal of the No Country Left Behind objective. In this 40th session of the Assembly, our authority, in close cooperation with the ICAO SAM office and the Latin American Civil Aviation Commission, have been working intensively to give the global aviation community contributions with unprecedented numbers of working papers submitted by the country and by the region. This demonstrates that Peru and the Latin American region have much to contribute. On the eve of the bicentenary of the creation of the state of Peru as an independent republic and the 75th anniversary of the creation of our organization, we publicly state our faith that civil aviation is an instrument for peace, friendship, understanding, cooperation, and development for all of humanity, and that the safe and orderly development of aviation rests on equal opportunities for all stakeholders in each nation, as envisioned by our predecessors who signed our founding charter, the Chicago Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the distinguished representatives for your statements. I see on the request list Brazil. Was that selected in error?
Mr. Chairman, thanks for this opportunity. I'd like to say that this is an opportunity to Brazil speaking in Portuguese. Then since this moment, I will start to speak in Portuguese in this forum.
Our presence has been from the beginning of this year, especially in the last 10 years. We have been opening in a very significant manner the air sector in Brazil, and the demand for air transport. The channel.
You want to make, we'll have to do it at another time, because we have. Last one we're able to take is the one from Peru. We were under the impression that you just want to make a comment, but if it's a statement, we'll have to do that at another time, please.
Okay, just like to thanks about the translator, and I'd like to say a few words in Portuguese, if it's possible. No? Yes. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to thank, on behalf of the Brazilian delegation and the organization of ICAO that welcomed at the 40th session in this assembly the possibility for those who speak Portuguese to listen in their own language. This initiative has gone from the initiative of ICAO that no country should be left behind. We are 8 member countries using Portuguese language, and we represent 300 million people in the world, and we represent 125 million passengers per year in a time where communication is one of the most important elements of understanding in international and interpersonal relations. The use among all member countries of a language strengthens the rules of ICAO that should be followed by all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to let me address the Assembly.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, colleagues, this brings us to the end of item 8 for today. Before we adjourn the meeting, let me remind all participants and your spouses are invited to the presentation of the Edward Warner Award this evening in the Assembly Hall, which will begin almost immediately, 17:15, followed by a reception hosted by the Government of Canada, the President of the Council, and the Secretary General in honor of both the recipient of the Edward Warner Award and the delegations to the Assembly. As stated previously, the reception will be held in the EVA building immediately following the awards. In view of the large representation at the Assembly, please note that the President of the Council and the Secretary General have indicated that they will not have a receiving line during the reception. It would be appreciated if as many of you and members of your delegation as possible can attend the reception and do so in your traditional dress if possible, to help celebrate the unity in diversity of ICAO's multicultural community as part of our 75th anniversary celebrations. So we will proceed immediately into the award presentation, and we encourage all to participate in the ceremony. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.